We actually host our own event. It's a dinner party. It's got this most beautiful tablescape there. It's gifted. And then the people that are in the magazine actually get to meet the readers of the magazine. So we do these carefully curated events where it's going into the hands of the readers that would be a potential customer or client for that brand or that business. And they also get to hear the brand story of the business, of the story behind their brand, which builds trust, which builds loyalty. So I really want that experiential marketing, which is where I'm tending to specialize now, of create these experiences that then it goes beyond the words, it goes beyond the pages, it actually comes to life. My name is Sarah Stone. I'm an author, I am an entrepreneur, and I'm the founder of Intentional Living magazine. So my aim is to really produce a publication that, with the tagline that we have, is read it, love it, and live it. So really experiential, of going beyond the pages of amazing content to provide with our community and our readers.
I think that's very interesting, and from what I've seen from the magazine, and you brought some examples, so we could talk about it on while we're here. But it's beautiful. It's very well curated. Talk to me about starting the magazine and what the a bit more of the you gave like the elevator pitch of what the magazine is. Now kind of go more into the nitty gritty. So your
Yeah.
goal, what's your goal for the magazine, and as a business venture, as a love venture, all the aspects.
Yeah, so the concept of the magazine actually came from me writing a book. So during COVID, there was an opportunity for me to sit down and really bring a concept of intentional living together. So I created a book that was called Live What You Love, and the whole Live What You Love concept was to really live life with intention. So launched the book, did the book, and had a great response from that. The aim from it was then people wanted me to write about the book and write an extension of what was covered in the book for their magazine. So very quickly I was getting asked questions and asked to write everywhere else, and they said, when is the next book? I can't produce a book so quickly, but I can produce a magazine. So it really started from an online platform of really putting my thoughts down onto the keyboards and publishing it, and then contacting friends and letting them share their reason for intentional living, or their concept, or their definition of success. So it came that we were building a community of people sharing their concept of what intentional living actually was. And from that, somebody recommended that we actually publish a magazine, which starts a whole new aspect of pitfalls and where do you even start with that. So yeah, that became the challenge.
The name of the business,
Yep.
or and the name of the venture and magazine and online, um, and even in the way you described your book, and I
Mhm.
guess the subtitle of your book is the word intention, intentional living, right?
Mhm.
Can you define that for me? What is, from your perspective, what is intentional living?
Yeah, so I feel that it's being very conscious and purposeful about the choices that you make, the decisions that you have, and the energy that you surround yourself with. That's within you and around you as well. And I think that allows us to be very conscious on the choices that we want, and with the things that matter the most to us.
What is intentional living, a bit more on, like, if you were to break that down even further, right?
Yeah,
So I totally understand the concept, and I think that it's important for all of us to be intentional about that we live.
yeah.
But what, day to day, what does that look like?
So my interpretation of intentional living is being very conscious and purposeful about the decisions that you're making. So that can be in your day-to-day life, it can be within your business, or it can be within your relationships, health, wellness, all of those different areas. And I feel it's really being purposeful on how you actually show up, what energy you focus on.
Like I said, I think that so many people can benefit from the idea, I think, of being intentional with their choices, but also what they want to get out of life. I think that so many people kind of skate through life unintentionally, and they let life happen to them rather than, being. There's a phrase that we use a lot in my church of, rather than being a thermometer, you be a thermostat, and you actually change the atmosphere that you're in rather than just reading the temperature of whatever, uh, wherever situation. And I think that that can be said about being, with your life. You think you can, of course, things happen, but how you approach those things and how you intentionally choose to perceive certain things, I think is really, really important in the outcome of your life, and honestly, the overall happiness of your life.
Hmm.
Right? I think that there's no avoiding of pain, there's no avoiding of hurt and sorrow, but I think that we can navigate those in a better way than others. Right? I want to talk a little bit more about your book,
Hmm.
and because that kind of was the leaping board or
Yeah.
jumping board into the magazine. Talk to me about what the book is about a little bit more in depth, and then also talk to me about the publication process.
So the book came from a point in life where I had just moved to New York.
Mm.
So back in 2018, we had the opportunity to move here from the UK in England, and we had the opportunity to start a new life here. But what it also meant that we were starting from scratch. So all we were used to is life back in the UK. I had a successful business there. We had our friends, we had our community, and then very quickly within a 4-week period, we were here in New York with no friends, no family, and actually not knowing where to start with our new life here.
So just to clarify on that,
Hmm.
you said a 4 week period. You made the decision to move and moved in 4 weeks.
Yeah, so my husband was here in 4 weeks. Yeah,
Wow.
so
Wait, did he work bring him here
yep,
or?
yep. So he came home with an opportunity that we said, let's go for dinner. And he was like, we need
A
to talk.
sneaky little
Yeah,
move.
we need to
I think I
talk.
might use that move more often.
So we went for dinner and he was like, listen, we have this opportunity and it's either going to be Florida or it's going to be New York, and what do you think? But he'd been offered 3 opportunities previously, and he then thought it's either this time around or no more offers. So he said, I'm really interested in the New York opportunity. What do you think? I'm like, well, we only live once. So that was the like the seedling of this living with intention, of like, we have an opportunity to go and really live life. And so we said yes. And then 4 weeks later, my
Wow.
husband was here and I was still back in the UK, closing down my photography studio, finishing up a business with a business partner that I had back there, where we built a community of 8,000 women, where we were helping build them start out in business or start over in business. And we both came to this crossroads of, I had this news that we were moving to New York in the next 4 weeks. And she had this news of like, she was just about to have her third child. So we came to this point of like, well, what now? And it became a point of, well, we have to focus on life right now. And that's exactly what we did. So we moved here in 2018, and it was a gutsy move because we didn't have our community here, we didn't have friends, and it was a real fresh starting point. But it was starting from ground zero
Mm.
of, where do you find your community, where do you find the business partnerships, or even resources, even to know where you could get stationery printed from, all of those little things. It was like a new language that you had to learn. And so this was the decision to make, that actually we have to find our people. I have to find community. I have to find somewhere where I feel like I can have a really good conversation with somebody. And at the beginning, that wasn't there. So I think that was one of the many challenges. And then COVID hit. So COVID was then locking everybody down, and it was a feeling of, what's next? What do we do? How do we do it? And it was my business partner back in the UK, and she said, you have to bring all of these ideas that you've had previously and bring them together and put them into a book.
I admire your leap of faith, and I think that so many people have missed opportunities
Hmm.
by not taking those leaps of faith.
Yeah.
And very similarly, my leap of faith is dropping out of college and starting a business at 18, 19 years old, where so many people are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You need a college degree. And I'm here many, many, many years later that is not the case, right? You said a phrase in the middle of your conversation, in the middle of your answer, that I want to focus on. I'd love you to expand on a little. And you said, when you were talking to your business partner that you had with the women, you said we need to focus on life right now.
Hmm.
That's a really interesting phrase. I'm curious what you meant by that.
It was really a turning point, because our business was called Female Success Network. So the whole definition of that was to help people pursue their version of success. And a lot of the time, when you say the word success, you put it down to financial success, or you put it down to how successful your business is at that moment in time. And for both of us, being completely aligned in how we ran our business, it then stopped us in our track because we thought if we carry on with this like now, life is going to suffer a little bit because we've both got life bombs going off of like all these different situations. And that was where the fundamental concept of the book came from, of like, if you are so busy pursuing your version of success, what about your relationships? What about your family? What about your health, your well-being? All of those other things, like it has to be a balance in some ways. And sometimes you can focus on success, but sometimes you can focus on your life, which can encapsulate all of that, but it just maybe has a different meaning at that point in your life. And for us, it was for me to nurture my relationship with my husband, for us to create home, because home for me was the UK. Here felt like an extended holiday for a very long period of time. So it was that concept of creating home. And it was only 2 to 3 years afterwards, it was like truly home is where your heart is. It's where you find your family. It's where you find your friends, your chosen family too now, which has become a big part of really settling into life here in New York.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And one of the things, just to piggyback on what you said, is I think that so many people kind of white knuckle the definition of success
Yeah.
because they're trying to build something and they think this is the right thing to do. And then in so many other areas of your life end up suffering. And or even just taking it on a slightly different note, think they think about providing for the family, right? Or providing a future for their kids or whatever the case may be. And I think that even with that, we have sometimes a misguided version of providing. Maybe instead of you choosing to provide financially at this season of life, you're providing for them a nurturing home, kind of like what
Absolutely.
you're saying. You're providing a present parent, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip, by providing financially, maybe you aren't able to provide the present parent, right? And
Mhm.
it's just all about perspective,
Yeah.
kind of like what you're saying.
It was a huge thing
Yeah,
because when we came here, because there was visa complications and things like that, which I won't really get into, but it restricted me. All I could be was my husband's wife for a period of time, and that's was so challenging against an entrepreneurial, creative mindset where you think that you can just start something from fresh here, and that wasn't in the remit of being able to do that. My visa meant that the only thing I could do was be employed. And I was unemployable because because I've been self-employed since 2007. So now just to say the only thing that you can do is go and get a job, I was like, whoa, like that's not me. I need to focus on creating home. Let's rebuild the foundations. And sometimes at the time that was the most difficult thing. It felt completely alien to anything that I knew, but actually at that moment in time it was necessary because it was that nurturing of refounding roots. So you did feel grounded, and actually that I wasn't always wanting to get back to the UK. I was wanting to create a life here and find what business could look like for the future.
sure. So let's continue on. So that was 2018. You built a home for a while, and then now you started this book. So talk to me
Yeah.
about that process of writing the book, and then
Yeah.
also the process of publishing that book.
Yeah, so it comes down to wanting a sense of purpose. So we've arrived, we're back in 2018, we're now locked down as well. And this was the feeling of like, well, what can you do in this environment? So I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. I love like learning new concepts, meeting new people, doing new things. So I actually trained in the art of feng shui with Marie Diamond, who is famous from The Secret. And it's all about being very intentional with your energy. And I love the concept of it, but I thought it was very dated because if you instantly think about feng shui, you think about moving furniture into a more lucky area of your room. And for me, I felt like a light bulb moment went off for me. And I was like, actually, this is about focusing your energy on what matters the most. So I did lots of research, lots of concept around everything, and thought, actually, there's nothing out there that I need. So I went ahead and created a book based on what I needed to feel a way of education, of being able to focus more energy on the things that matter the most. So I based the book on the traditional form of feng shui, but actually created my own modality, which was called creative feng shui. And this was less about the home and it was more about life. And it was the follow on from my company, which was Female Success Network, where that was all about success. This now became about intentional living. This could be about your wealth and abundance. It could be about your personal brand and your reputation, your community, your lifestyle, your health, your well-being. So this very quickly gave me 9 areas of life to be able to write about, to focus on, and to actually educate others about being intentional with their lifestyle.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's a whole, again, kind of going back to that, the intentional aspect of life.
Yeah.
How did once this book was released, how did you get into the hands of the public, and how did people hear about this book?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So thanks for answering that because I felt like the launch of the book was the start of everything else. Everything else snowballed. Everybody thinks that you're right when you're writing a book, the hardest part is when you're actually writing it. It's not true, it's a myth. The hardest part is when you have written that book and you need to get it into the hands of people. So I always love the tagline of I like to zig whilst everyone else is zagging. And many of the things that I did to actually promote the book was that I did an online course that supported the book itself. So I was like, don't just read the book, actually learn with me as well. I'll guide you through the book, we'll take the courses and we'll create this vision together. So I did an online program and I also reached out to many people that had great memberships. So there was a lady back in the UK, she did this fantastic business box. And every month you get this box that arrives in the mail, you get an inspiring book, you get a journal, you get some stationery, and you get all lovely surprises that you get in there. So I reached out to her and she placed an order for 450 of those books
Wow.
to go into every subscription box. So that was the start of that because that led from the book. It then led on to my online program that actually allowed them to study
Wow.
for that. Yeah. So that was one idea. And then the other idea was that during COVID, the rental property that we had, because we couldn't buy a home when we first arrived here, zero credit. So then we ended up living in Southampton for a period of time. It was the only property that was available in the whole of Long Island. And we ended up right in the center of Southampton Village, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And we used to take regular walks on Cooper's Beach and June Road and all those gorgeous places. And one thing that I noticed was that they had these freestanding libraries. And so I took it upon myself to go and find every freestanding library and get one of those books in every one of those little libraries with a personal note and my contact details to reach out if they've read it and see whether it brought them luck. And lo and behold, it did. Somebody reached out for me, and we made a great relationship off the back of it. And that's when I brought back my photography, and we were doing private events photography. And she actually wrote for a magazine, and she wanted me to write for the magazine. So, if you don't believe in serendipity, I would definitely relook at things because anything that is meant for you will never ever pass you by.
I love that. I love there's a quote that goes scale the unscalable, and I think a lot of people, or to piggyback on that quote, actually, I would say like that a lot of people shun the small beginnings,
Hmm.
and I think that they want 1 million copies and to be a New York Times bestseller, and how do you do that? And I think that they go these routes that aren't necessarily fruitful because they're trying to scale these huge numbers.
Yes.
And I mean, I think 450 books right off the bat is incredible.
Hmm.
But it's through such unique avenues, and it's a bit more of that guerrilla marketing of kind of in the grit, in the dirt of like, okay, I'm gonna send 450 emails, 450 books to this person, and I'm gonna put every book in every single thing. And I don't know, are you familiar with the brand Red Bull?
Yes. Yes.
I believe it was either Red Bull or Monsters, one of those
Hmm.
energy drinks. That
Hmm.
are you familiar with their marketing strategy when they first started out?
No, tell me.
I think it was in New York City, or whatever city it was, right? Just for the concept of the story, it'll be New York City. The owner took hundreds of empty cans and filled New York City garbage cans with them, to
Love
make
it.
people think like, wow, everybody's
Yes.
drinking this drink. What is it? And
Hmm.
it's create like at the time nobody was drinking the drink, but he was just it's his mindset, like it's just this guerrilla marketing of
Yes,
doing
it
something that's
is.
unique and that stands out. And
Yeah.
I chuckled when you brought up the subscription package,
Mhm.
because I had done something so similar with my
Ah,
music. I had made these little download cards on my music, and I reached out to hundreds of different places, hoping to kind of forge a relationship with them. And a couple places took them, and they took thousands of cards and
yeah.
really put a boost in people listening to my music. And it's just nobody thinks of doing that stuff, and
No,
it's so unique.
and I think that's the difference is to do things differently if you can, of like thinking outside of the box is what allows you to open the doors to other opportunities. And also, that was just one arm of it. We ended up getting a #1 bestseller on Amazon in 7 different categories as
Wow.
well. So we did do a big launch campaign, and it you know, it knocked some of the big books off the top of the thing. And I think that was because there was a marketing strategy, a proactive marketing strategy as well, of setting a date leading up, and letting everybody know that that's the date that it would be available on. And that's why I tied it in with the online course as well, that it just became as a big launch campaign. And I think that's the big thing, is that you think it's the writing the book, and then you do this launch, and then there's an anticlimax because you think, what now? And it's that what now is where the good stuff starts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's all about perspective. Talk to me about a little bit about that campaign. You mentioned like the marketing campaign to get it to the #1 on Amazon and stuff. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so that was really drip feeding a lot of the content. So within my book is a lot of intentions throughout the book. So instantly it just started to have a little bit of the forward, and then it would be, what's your lucky number? And they're like, oh, tell me my lucky number. And it's like, well, you're going to have to wait for the book. Or what's your power position? And it's like, what's a power position? So it was a real 6-week campaign of drip feeding content and leading it into a wait list. So everybody was like, listen, like, you're going to want to get your hands on this because you'll get an online course and you'll get the book. And so it was building this email database beforehand, of being able then to say, okay, get ready for the launch. And then that meant that we had a good community in advance ready for when you hit live on the Amazon, and then everybody buys all at the same time, and then Amazon thinks that book's doing amazing, like it goes in that. And we were very strategic in the categories that we were putting on Amazon as well. So you can enter it into multiple categories instead of just one. So we were edging our bets, and it just so happened that actually the community got behind it. And that's the power of that. If you just say, everybody go on at this time and make your purchase, send me your receipt, and you'll get a 50% discount on
Wow.
on the online course.
Wow.
So it's like they received something, we received something, and it was all part of trying to be really innovative on how we can have a huge amount of sales in a very short window of time, which then gives you the sales that they're looking for you to be able to get the #1 bestseller
Yeah.
hotspot. And we did.
That's fascinating. You are quite the marketer. It is,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah, as do I. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your vigor with it.
Hmm.
Talk to me about now. You started to segue into the transition of the magazine, with the mention of you bringing back your photography business, and
Hmm.
it turns out you met the person that reached out, was wrote for a magazine.
Yes.
Now, does that translate into starting this magazine, and where does it translate? Talk to me about that.
It does a little bit, and I think it's a beautiful story as well, because I'm always very much of the mindset, give more than you receive. Because many people that know me, they'll say, Sarah, you always give, but you don't expect anything in return. And I do that because it's never done, it's always done with pure pleasure. That's just within me. And this is what happens from reading the book to then saying, well, I do a magazine and I do a blog, would you write for me? So I was writing, and then she said, oh, I see that you do photography, will you do some photography for me? And these were at beautiful locations in the Hamptons location. So she was opening so many wonderful doors, but also giving me the opportunity to get my creative side out with the photography, being able to write. And I kept doing the photography, I kept doing the private events, I kept doing the writing, and it was give. And she said, wait a minute, you do all of this for me, what can I do for you? Like, how can I help you? And I said, well, I have this idea. And I feel that there is a magazine called Intentional Living Magazine within me, which are the next steps of the book. And I feel that there's other people that can contribute to this. And she said, you have to do this. How can I be part of it? And how can I support it? And bearing in mind, she had a really high profile job at a group publication in the city. It was quite nerve wracking to approach her because I didn't want to step on any toes, but it didn't. It was just gifted with love of like, how can I support you after you've supported me so much? So it kind of gave me a green light of like, this is possible. And so that's where everything started. And I thought, I want to do her proud because she's supported me, she's mentored me, she's made introductions for me, she's just been that person who actually gave me a new lease of life when I was here. So what can I do? What can I produce that she would look at it and she'd go, great job. And so she's always been on my shoulder of like, oh, just do this. So every piece of the design that you see within the magazine is done with absolute creativity and love. It's just with precision, with that photography eye that's there, that the layouts are very intentional, that the stories flow from one to the next. And the biggest achievement that I feel that I've done with this so far is to do this independently. And that's not because I've been stubborn. This is because I've come across roadblocks where I've been let down. There's been issues. Magazines haven't arrived on launches, things like that. That other people really dropped the ball. So I've said, well, I've got to do this. This is something that I feel that I have to birth, and this is something that you have to go through that process. And I produced the magazine, and I sat down with her and I said, take a look at this. And in her professional eyes, she said, I would not make one change whatsoever. Just have it that it's not issues, that it's volumes. That's the only thing I would change. And I said, and what do you think about it not being dated? And she was like, love it. Because it's just become timeless. It's everything in there is coffee table status. And it's become less about being a magazine now. It's more of a lifestyle guide that comes to life with the content that's in there and the events that we create on the back of it.
You took the words right out of my mouth because I wanted to talk about the fact that it isn't issues and
Yeah.
it's not like a dated issue with the spring launch or the fall launch. It's more of, you mentioned when we were talking prior, it's actually more of I don't know what you want to say, topical, or how did you explain it to
Yeah,
me?
I'd say it's themed,
Theme
like
is the word.
lifestyle themes. So the very first publication that we did was based around reinvention because of everything that we've just talked about. It felt like it was very authentic, and I feel that everybody that reads this does want to put their mobile phone down, sit down with their favorite drink and flick through it and give it a little hug at the same time because it's that type of story-led content. And then the following issue was then more about the wellness because little did I know that when we moved over to the US, as well as that life bomb going on, I was also going through surgical menopause. And I thought that I was having panic attacks and hair loss and all these things because I was missing being back in the UK. And I didn't know that all of these symptoms that I were having was due to like menopause. And so that was the next issue. Then I was like, actually I want to bring these experts from all around the world for people like me that are younger to go through this. What are the signs and symptoms and all of these things that they should be looking out for that they may not be aware of? So that was why the wellness issue came together, and we brought some incredible experts from around the world to be involved with that, and they got behind it and backed us and supported us with it as well.
It's incredible. So talk to me a little bit about the guests that you have writing for this. So when you
Yeah.
say you bring in these experts, you bring in different entrepreneurs or writers or journalists. What is their expectation? What is your expectation? What is the relationship like?
Yeah, so because there's always a theme, there's always an underlying story of what's happening. So it could be living well. So everybody that comes has that theme of living well, and or it could be redefining luxury. And so I handpick and carefully curate those people who I feel that would really enhance that particular issue. So for instance, the wellness issue, we had Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who is like the hot topic of menopause right now, and she gave her insights because we went there with a real weighted story of why we wanted to feature her. It wasn't because she was just popular right now. It was really to say that this is an important message to share. Can you help us share it? Or can we help you share your message too? So it's really that behind it of like picking hand-picked experts of what story is going to flow from the next. So we do it by that people that I follow and do research on, or actually if there's a themed series of the month. So it could be, breast cancer awareness. Can we get a breast cancer expert that can say, give us tips on what to look for, or and then it can change it up to lifestyle, so food and recipes. So it can go from wellness to living to home and interiors to lifestyle and tablescapes. So it's very varied, which gives us endless content
Yeah.
to cover.
How often is a volume released?
So we do it on seasons, but really the beauty of this now is that we are not on deadline. The deadline is to make sure that the right people are in at the right time talking about the right things. So I feel that that's taken a lot of pressure. There's still like a guide of when we want to do it, and the aim is that it is a season of life. So ideally we want to do spring, summer, autumn and winter, but actually what does that look as a season in a lifestyle and the theme of where we are in our life right now as well.
On a practical level, in the sense of like, let me rephrase, on a numerical level,
Yeah.
what would be the goal for this magazine? Is it to, like, there's, you mentioned living in Southampton for a while. I know that
Yeah.
you're now in Stony
Stony
Brook now,
Brook,
right?
yeah.
But I was just in Sag Harbor for the weekend,
Mhm.
and you see a lot of magazines out there, a lot of different varieties, and one being like, for example, I think believe it's called Dance Paper
Yeah.
or the Hamptons Magazine. Is that like the route you want to go, where like you're now on all these doorsteps of these places, or what, you're looking for a different route? What's your end goal? And are
Yeah.
those like your direct quote unquote competition,
Mhm.
or are they in a totally different field that you're not in?
No, I feel that that's a really interesting question, because I feel that there is a place for each and every publication, and I celebrate every single publication that is out there, because in some way, shape or form, they're educating, they're showcasing, they're actually highlighting either brands or people or businesses that deserve for their story to be heard. So their concept is fantastic. For me personally, it's more of an intimate boutique style. So I actually give the Hamptons as a bit of a reference of why we don't go out there with thousands of copies. So our strategy is that I don't want to spend all of this money printing these premium print magazines that deserve to be on coffee tables, not in just homes, but in leisure, in wellness centers and any other places. So what I don't want to do is take 1,000 copies to stores outside the Hamptons, and then there be this terrible thunderstorm where it's absolutely pouring with rain within minutes, every single one of them getting ruined. And I know for a fact that the people that and the community that are in the Hamptons, they will not want to have a crusty copy of whatever publication is there. They will go to the one that is pristine, it's clean, it feels fresh, it feels untouched. So my strategy is to do it intimately, whether we do it through intimate gatherings, whether we gift it. So there's so many, you'll have been to Sag Harbor, there's so many private events that are happening there. They have brand activations, they have celebrities that are coming, and you'll notice that every single one of those has the gift bags. So I really feel that this is a gift. So I go and offer it as a gift, and actually take it to locations where it can actually be access. So whether it's in homes, whether it's at a networking event, whether it's at a retreat, whether it's at a community gathering, that actually if I can go along there and make sure that it's in the right hands, rather than putting my finger in the air thinking and hoping that somebody might pick that up as they're passing when they're on the way to lunch, or they're too busy shopping. I don't want to be with the mainstream. I actually really enjoy that we're independent, that we're intimate, and actually it's hand deliver in so many instances.
Yeah, I like that idea. Going back to what you were saying earlier about the zig when other people zag
Yep,
or zag when other people zig, and it's kind of going back to that. And I think that that's what marketing really is. Is if everybody's going this way, if you go that way, you stand out.
yep,
You know,
yep.
and I really appreciate the idea of the gift bag,
Mhm.
and even just in the aspect of like just from like a psychological aspect, being in there, seeing all those beautiful magazines. The magazines are beautiful.
Yep,
The photography is beautiful,
stunning. Mhm.
but you're not totally even in the mindset to really enjoy it.
Yep.
You're with your family, you're on a date, at work.
Mhm.
You pick one up, you're like, wow, this is really beautiful. And if you take it or you don't take it, the mentality in which you pick it up is not that I'm gonna go sit down and read this right now. It's like,
Absolutely.
maybe you have the intention to, but you
Mhm.
typically don't end up doing that. Um, so the context in which you even receive the gift is, I think, really important as well. So, for example, like the fact that you're talking about it as a gift,
Yep.
or it being already on the coffee table when you're sitting down in the wellness center waiting for your treatment, or at somebody's house, you're already sitting on the couch comfortable. You can spend a couple of minutes reading. It's a
Absolutely.
totally different just approach to how people can receive the content inside.
It is. And then to go one step further with this as well is going back to the tagline of the read it, the love it, and the live it. So the extension of what we do with the publication is afterwards when the publication is there, we actually host our own event. And at that event it's really about that's exactly the same. It's a dinner party. It's got this most beautiful tablescape there. It's gifted, and then the people that are in the magazine actually get to meet the readers of the magazine. So we do these carefully curated events where it's going into the hands of the readers that would be a potential customer or client for that brand or that business. And they also get to hear the brand story of the business of the story behind their brand, which builds trust, which builds loyalty. So I really want that experiential marketing which is where I'm tending to specialize now, of create these experiences that then it goes beyond the words, it goes beyond the pages, it actually comes to life. Because I think that with so much AI that's out there now, you can do your social media posts, you can have somebody create that magazine for you, but nobody is ever going to take things like this away. Like, I can look into your eyes, you can look into my eyes, you can see the truth, you can actually touch something, you can take away something. It's like how can it evoke every single one of your senses? And I think by able to then read it, to love what you say, and then love it in real time with real people, and actually get to meet them as well, I think enhances the whole experience in itself.
Let's talk a little bit about I guess the financial aspect of this. So, how does this? How did you start this off? Was it a money pit at first, or was it? And does it make money now? Does it break even now? What does that look like? And then also these events. I'm curious on the financial aspect of these events. Are they paid events where people pay to come? And just if you wouldn't mind sharing, I think that it'd
Yeah,
be
of course,
beneficial
I'm
for people to hear.
completely open book.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. But it started as the vision of just starting online. So obviously, there's no cost with anything like that. And then the vision of the magazine was there, and I think I wanted it to be luxury at the same time. So whenever you're thinking of anything luxury print, it's expensive. So at the beginning, was it a money pit? I'd say I'd rephrase it into investment. I would
I
say
agree. I agreed with that.
I'll actually
Sure.
say that it was personal investment, completely self-funded, of a point to prove. Because when I was first reaching out to potential advertisers, potential brand partners, they were saying, well, what's your demographic? Like, and I'm not, yes, I had a demographic. What's your reach? I don't know what the reach was going to be. I've only got an online reach at the moment. I can't tell what that print reach is going to be. What's going to be the return on investment? I can't make any of those promises because there's nothing within me that will actually do the talking and then try and back it up. I want to give evidence first. So I reversed engineered how this could actually become a print publication. And that again came back to community. So I'd built a community back in the UK of women, female entrepreneurs that would have incredible success. And so I decided, again, the zig whilst everyone else was zagging, I'm not going to go for advertisers. I'm actually going to go for people who are experts in their industries that are focusing on raising the awareness of who they are, what they do, brand positioning, how they can reach an American market, how they can reach a UK market. So I actually approached potential contributors that I said, you can become a columnist. It is an investment, but I want you to actually rethink about this pay to play thing that you might have been approached on Instagram thing. I want this to be a marketing strategy that actually allows you to be a lead in to a book, or to that it links to the magazine website, that has a call to action for your retreat, for your online course, for your program, for your brand. And they got it. And everybody that I actually took the time to explain the process to, they trusted me and they backed me and they invested in the magazine, and we were able to publish. So we broke even on the first publication.
Wow.
So that was like, and yes, we didn't print 7,500 copies. We printed 2,500 copies on our first print run.
Still quite a bit of
Still,
copies.
that's a lot of copies, and that was every contributor then purchasing their allocation of 50 copies each or 75 copies each that they can give to their clients, that they can put. So it was like this spider's web that was from San Diego to Toronto to Miami to Palm Beach to the UK. So instantly that reach went even further. So then that gave me the demographic and the statistics for the next time around for me to be able to do the media kit and say, listen, we do this differently. It's intimate, it's private, it's low print run, it's quality over quantity. And then we had brand partners on board say, we get it, we love the concept. We can you know what can you do with the print and the events? So I'm like, okay, so this is now an in-person experience as well as the magazine. So when we brought a brand partner on board, it wasn't just to advertise in the magazine, because we won't just do advertising. It has to be the company story. And then for us, our sponsor partners, they get to come to the event as well. So it's a larger fee, but they'll cover the events, they'll cover advertising in the magazine, and we get to come together. They get to showcase their brand, their business, and it's direct to consumer, that we bring the right people to the table, and instantly there they have access to their potential clients.
It's a very, 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 kind of like you said, just the way you navigate businesses is very unique to a lot of other people. I think a lot of people would really benefit from kind of trying to take a step back and say, okay, what is everybody else doing and what can I do differently? So it's actually really interesting that you bring up the events, because a little bit beforehand we were talking about the fact that as the podcast, running the podcast, I wanted to incorporate events in the previous guests of the podcast. We all meet at a restaurant or a location, and we can just kind of talk to each other and kind of just express each other. We all relate because we want to obviously have this in common, but also the fact of like, we're all business owners and we have different problems than other people have. Talk to me a little bit about how the events are going and what your plans are for those events.
Yeah, that's again, we're so aligned when it comes to that side of them. I think it's because when you're a people person, you want to bring people together.
Yeah.
So the area that I'm really finding is my sweet spot right now is this experiential marketing. I know I mentioned it earlier, but there's real depth to what that is and what that can look like for you on many different forms.
Yeah.
Recently been a very good example of what experiential marketing is, because Lululemon have just been in the Hamptons. They've just hired a whole Hamptons house, where they've done fitness activations from strength training, from yoga, and they've invited people in to physically do it. So that's not just saying, look at our brand, we're amazing. This is actually come in and experience it and live it. Another example, Fresh Direct. They again took over a Hamptons house, and they actually had a private chef there that was cooking, and they had a dinner. We've just done it recently with Feast and Fettle. So we went to the private residences of the Four Seasons. We had a dinner party for 22 women, and Feast and Fettle provided the dinners for us and talked to us about moments that matter. We did table talk cards, and they gave us a real insight to the concept of why they bring their food together the way that they did. It was more about they want to spend less time in the kitchen so you can create more time with your family. But they wanted to explain that in front of people. And so we're curating these environments where brands like this can actually have access to a group of people who can actually then do a talk card on the table that says, what's the family recipe that you would love to take through generations of your family? And that could be an apple pie, or it could be grandma's meatballs, or whatever it is. But it got people talking, and it got people nostalgic and really immersed in conversation and actually connecting over these moments. And I think if you can create an environment like that, they're not selling a product at this stage. They're selling this experience of making people feel something. And I feel that there's something now that with the likes of AI that's here, which there's definitely a place for that. But then there's definitely a place for people to immerse in an environment where they actually absolutely evoke all of their senses, evoke their feelings, and so that they can actually really truly believe and back the brands that are actually saying what they're doing. They're actually living it as well. And I think there's real strength in how this is going to be going forward. So by creating these experiential marketing dinners or gatherings and experiences, people then feel loyal because they've heard that firsthand, they've experienced it.
Sure.
They can't take that away. That's not just an advert that's placed in front of them. So we do this now by creating these really intimate environments so that you can taste it, you can smell it, you can feel it, you can talk it. And that's the point. So the aim now is to do more environments like that, not just for business owners. It could be for men who want to get fitter, or they want to learn about how they can optimize their health, or it could be for women that actually they've been teaching for the past 30 years and they've just retired, and now they're like, what's my next steps? And they could just see a modality of something. They might learn how to do yoga, or they might want to learn how to do sound healing, and it could really give them a burst of inspiration for them to have a sense of intentionality or entrepreneurship that they never thought that they could
Yeah.
have previously.
So what does that look like? Like, what's the next level or next step for the experience marketing or the events that you look to do?
Yeah, so we want to do more intimate brunches, but we've also got a retreat coming up as well. So we're doing pretty much the same. We're taking over a Hamptons beach house, and we're going to be doing the whole living it of yoga on the beach,
Wow.
walking, nature, but then it have a business concept to it as well. Because I believe that going forward, the art of business is that everybody has a personal brand, that they don't hide behind their business. So although it's going to be very wellness orientated, it's also business orientated, and actually with an intention behind it about building a personal brand for longevity. To really have a home for your name, and actually do things like this to showcase who you are in business, or who you are in life, or what it is that you're creating. And I think things like retreats are a perfect space to be able to create space, to have access to people, to actually then balance it with lifestyle, good food, good company. And I think that's when you can enhance community spirit and other people connecting and potentially partnering and collaborating as well, because it's about being in those spaces that you can have those conversations for what opportunities are possible.
What does the online presence for your magazine look like? Because the back behind that question is,
Mhm.
I think that, and I don't remember. I apologize. I don't remember what the if there is an Instagram, or if what it looks like if there is one. But I think highlighting stories like this would be so interesting, picking a couple here and there. And I'm curious, do you guys do that, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so currently our at the time of recording this, we're at probably 10,500 on our Instagram. So that's within a 3 year time scale. So that's grown relatively quickly. We showcase a lot of our events on there and also do lots of intentional conversations through a live Instagram chat, which I know we've spoken about the that's my version of doing a podcast.
Hmm.
But with that, we showcase events. We obviously photograph all the events that we attend. And a recent event that we did, it got traction of over 240,000 views.
Wow.
So the reach is there, and I think that's through partnership and collaboration as well. So predominantly Instagram is our main source, which is doing incredibly well, and the reach and statistics on that are great. And then obviously that links back to our website then, which is pretty much very similar actually. We're probably on about 270K views a month, and then we link
Wow.
that into, yeah, we link that
Where does
into
that come
Pinterest.
from, you think?
We use a lot via Pinterest, and we do a lot of behind the scenes work with our SEO and consistent posting of our articles as well. So
So like it almost like essentially a blog.
yes, yes. So our different, like our difference of what we do is that every article is posted in its own right. So a lot of the magazines that you'll see is a click and flick. It's just a PDF or an issue that you click through and there's nothing. So there's no readable content in there or no searchability. And the great thing is because we're linking with our partners, there's backlinks and we're doing all of those elements around it. We've then got the reach of being able to link over to our partners as well, which I think is raising it a little bit. But
But
yeah,
if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that each article that's in there
yeah,
is also an individual article on the website,
that's right.
which then also creates shareability for whoever wrote
Exactly.
it, or
Yeah,
if somebody wants to share it, the story,
yeah,
or that's
yeah,
very
yeah,
fascinating because
yeah.
say I read a story and I want to share it with a friend or
Hmm.
family member, I just copy the link and
Yeah.
now they know about your
Exactly, and that's
magazine.
the whole point. So this was the concept of giving a contributor ownership of their publicity. Because ultimately what you want to do, you don't want it to be exclusive, you want it to be out there. And the further that's shared, so they get a full pack. So they get graphics that they've been featured in Intentional Living magazine, they get their own article bundle, they get their own shareable things that they can print it and have it on showcase if they're at an event or something like that. So really how we can have that two-way conversation of how can we best get the most publicity out of this for you, and by them sharing it we get the reach as well.
Exactly. Very similarly, how this podcast is structured, where it's the growth, the majority of the growth of the podcast is through the collaboration of the guests on board. Where at this point, there is a bit of traction within the podcast, but a lot of the growth has come from having the guests on and featuring the guests, and then now it's shared to the two platforms,
Yeah,
not just the one. Very similar to what you're doing,
exactly.
just on a different platform,
Yeah,
and it's very, very
yeah.
interesting. What do you think is next for for you? Actually, I was going to say
Mm.
for the magazine, but what's next for you instead?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that I love curating these experiential environments for business owners and actually then having more people featured within the magazine. I do feel that I need to step out and into a role of being able to help other people be able to do that, whether it's on a consultancy, whether it's that I can help people print their own version of a magazine or actually help them create the events or retreats. I feel that there's a consultancy role that's in there, but more than anything, an educational role. I feel that there's a way of helping others achieve their next steps of success as well, and it's something that I get great joy from as well.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and it's surprising that we've chatted for an hour because
I
time flies.
know.
But in conclusion, one of the questions that I like to ask all my guests is kind of in retrospect or in hindsight, right? Hindsight is 2020, as they
Mhm.
say. Like you can say woulda, coulda, shoulda, but what is one thing that you know now in your business that you wish you knew when you first started?
I would actually say trust the process because
A lot
yeah.
harder, easier said than done. A lot harder to do than say.
Because the doubt and the fear at the time that could actually hold you back of knowing that you have a belief there, and with so many contributing factors that can actually derail you along the way, that holding the nerve of trusting that process, of now looking back of like, yeah, just stay on the course,
Yeah.
just put the blinkers on, trust the process, and believe that there is always a way.
That's incredible.
Mm.
I'm really looking forward to seeing where you go, but also where this magazine goes, and if maybe one day down the road we see another book.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much for the
It's been a
time.
pleasure,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Really
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. I enjoyed hearing your story. But if you are a business owner, you know any business owners that you think might be a good fit for this podcast, please consider reaching out. In the meantime, we'll see you in the next video. And thank you again.
Thank you so much.